Welcome back to One Winning Pod, where the Ravens, oh my goodness, the Ravens, they won. They got the monkey off their back, 34-17, defeating the Steelers and putting themselves in position to potentially win the AFC North. The vibes were good. It was a competent and confident performance by the team. It looked as if the bye week did them well. Obviously, they had the Giants as a speed bump beforehand, but something tells me they extra prepared for the Steelers. They knew what it meant, and they executed to the highest order. Very impressive win. A win I think that much of the fan base is reveling in and starting to feel more optimistic about the team. Peter, I know you were in the house. How was it for you?
Dude, it was a lot of fun. Sure, there were times during that game where it felt tight. A couple mistakes the Ravens made, and we'll get to those. But, I mean, honestly, we'd really be nitpicking at that point, I think, at this loss. I mean, this is a Steelers team that has a good record. I know there's a lot in the fan base who have questions about them. I do myself as well. Maybe they're a little bit, not quite as good as that record. But, look, this is a team that has had the Ravens number a lot in the past few seasons. This is a team that Lamar Jackson has not had his best games against. And he had an excellent game on Sunday. Derrick Henry had a career game as far as his time facing the Steelers, not just with us, but with the Titans as well. And the defense was opportunistic. We lost the game in Pittsburgh because we lost the turnover battle. Won this game because we won the turnover battle. I think it's as simple as that. And a great win. I mean, if the Ravens weren't able to come out with this win, it would have been dark, but they were able to. And this looks really good going into the postseason.
It did. It answered a lot of questions. It's just one of those things where whenever we played this team, when we play the Chiefs, it feels like something's going to go wrong. We just have institutional knowledge to believe that something's going to go wrong. Vegas didn't think something was going to go wrong. We were, huge favorites, and it didn't really make sense if you looked at it, prior games. But like everything we thought about the teams, it kind of made sense for the spread to be, a little bit bigger. And then, of course, the Ravens demolished that spread. And like you said, Peter, they got the turnovers at the time they needed them. 2 incredibly timely turnovers that took points off the board, or put points on the board as well. The first one was at the goal line. Darius Washington, AD all day, smashing. Russell Wilson didn't even see him coming, it almost looked like, and fumbles it. That was huge. It looked like they were about to score. Honestly, the stadium was a little quiet at that point. It was just people, I think, were feeling those feels right at that moment, that after the offense kind of looked confident in the first couple drives, that was going to be what did them in. The defense wasn't going to be quite there. They get the turnover. And then, of course, the other turnover, Lamar throws a pick. Bateman powered down. You're like, oh, man, I can't believe it. We were in the red zone. 2 plays later, pick 6. Marlon Humphrey's first pick 6. Days after his son was born. Crazy stuff. Those were the moments, man. Those were the 2 turning points. Pick which one ever you want to call the turning point, but those were the 2 turning points of the game. Defense was huge in this part. I really do think so.
Without a doubt. And what's shocking to think about is that was the first defensive touchdown the Ravens have had this season. Just incredible that this late into the season, a lot of interesting firsts in this game. Not just that. Mark Andrews, who we'll get to as well, had his first career touchdown against the Steelers in his career. Mr. Most receiving touchdowns, most offensive touchdowns by a non-quarterback in Ravens history. Finally got one against the Ravens' biggest rival. That was another odd stat that apparently never happened. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, this defense, I think we can, nitpick some of it. I think there were times where the Steelers had some big plays where you're looking at who's out there for them as far as receivers. And, Ben Skoranek was getting open, in the middle of the field. The first drive, Calvin Austin had that play where he got beat where Wiggins got beat, I should say. So we can nitpick this defensive effort by them. simply because it wasn't perfect. But what happened there, I think, and we're continuing to see, is the effort level of these guys. It's not perfect what they're doing, but the guys who are out there now, they're communicating, they're giving their full effort there, and they're not giving up. And we're seeing that. We're seeing a drive there. The Steelers could have taken the lead in that game. Ardarius Washington comes up with an incredibly big play there and forces a turnover. We needed the defense to step up big after a rare Lamar Jackson pick and Marlon Humphrey, who's had an incredible bounce back season, a guy who, battled injuries last year and wasn't the best version of himself, has come back and had an all-pro season this year. There's a lot I think we can talk about with the defense, but what I'm really noticing these past few weeks, the effort level just seems really high all across the board. And not saying it wasn't before, but something's definitely changed. And you're seeing a much hungrier unit, a much more confident unit, I think. And it's boding really well once again, looking ahead.
I mean, yeah, let's go right back to Ardarius. He comes in. He's one of the big people who came in and calmed down the defense, so to speak. And the guy is like 5'0". I think he's smaller than me. I think he's like 5'9", 5'8", and he's tackling, Fryer move. He's tackling Najee Harris. He makes the forced fumble against Russell Wilson. I mean, the guy was tackling guys way bigger than him in key situations to either stop them from getting, a breakaway or, containing them on, second down, for instance, with Fryer move. I was really impressed with his performance. The guy is he's so good. And the fact that he's a free agent is troubling. I think he might be a priority re-sign if possible. Hopefully he doesn't disappear. I know he's had like weird year accruals because of, his like UDFA status and injury and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of got him this year for free, or not for free, but like he's been with us a little longer than anticipated. And hopefully we can make it even longer because I just love the way he plays. He's a guy that you love to root for. An underdog, so to speak, but he's playing so well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. A guy who's undrafted, who always performed well in the preseason, and another one of these guys that the Ravens have found undrafted or in the late round at the safety position, who they've been able to coach up and help them develop into a very solid defensive player in this unit. And we talked about it in the preview that one of the things we really needed to see from this Ravens group was to see some of these guys who, are haven't been in the league as long and have had big games against lesser competition step up and have those big games in these tough matchups. And I think when we were bringing that up, we were mostly talking about the offensive side of the ball. And we'll get to those guys because a lot of them did step up in this game. And Washington's shown up in big games, but I think he hasn't always, and I think it's gotten more consistent as the season's gone on. And I mean, certainly in this game, I mean, there were just many times where, like you brought up, he's tackling guys bigger than him. He's to the ball. He's forcing turnovers, hitting big. I mean, he's a hard hitter for someone his size. So yeah, great to see. And at a position of need, as we've talked about all year, just figuring out this, they tried Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, for whatever reason. Those two guys didn't work out. Williams a lot more confounding than Jackson. And they needed someone to step up and take it. And Washington was the guy this year. And he's continued to do great things out back there and had a great game against the Steelers.
Eddie Jackson, the newest member of Ravens West, heading over to the Chargers as of today. We'll see how that works out for them. But yeah, I think another guy that stepped up after having a really huge start to the season and kind of tapered off a bit was Kyle Van Noy, a sack and a half, other QB hits and disruptions in the backfield. Big game from that guy. Definitely, felt like the veteran is turning on right at the right time.
Oh, 100%. And he got over 10 sacks in this game. And surprisingly, again, another surprising stat that we find out, that's a career high in sacks for him. Career high in sacks, breaking his record from last year when he had 9. Before that, he never had more than 6.5 sacks in a game, despite him being a guy who's been around a lot of Detroit, the Patriots, Dolphins, Chargers. I mean, this guy's been in the league for a long time and has always been regarded as a plus player. And yet the role that the Ravens have for him here, he's able to rush the passer more. And, there was a little bit of a lull after he really got out of the gate, but he's been really strong for them these past few weeks. And, they need it, obviously, because of some of the injuries. But, yeah, he had a good game from the pass rushing standpoint. Matabike was back there a lot. And another guy, who I think didn't show up in the stat sheet as much, but you watched the tape. He was pressuring, causing a lot of pressures, caused at least one time for Russell to throw the ball out of bounds. David Ojabo actually did a decent job in pass rush this game. There are other guys we can talk about as well, but it was promising to see Ojabo, who, hasn't even been active terribly much as of late, get in there and at least make some positive plays.
Yeah, about time. I love to see that. He was the guy making pressure when Russell threw the pick 6, allegedly, who Marlon was trying to lateral to for reasons unknown.
He was taunting. We all know that. He can say what he wants.
I want to know who came up with that for him. I was trying to lateral it.
Yeah, sure. I guess the refs brought it. I was very surprised there was no flag on that one, but I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I hate to see it. I really do. I mean, at least he scored and there was no penalty, but it just gave me once they started doing that, and also when there was another breakaway touchdown, I forget who it was, and they started high stepping or whatever. And I'm like, guys, can we just get in the end zone? Don't drop the ball prematurely. This is too good of a team to taunt. Taunt once you're in the end zone. I don't care if you start lap dancing them in the end zone, but get to the end zone. No taunting in the middle of the field.
Oh boy.
But yeah, that's that was something, man. I just loved. I loved every bit of it, man, because it's one of those things you see it coming. I don't know from your vantage point if they were on the side closer to you. I think they probably were.
No, it was the opposite. If we're talking about the Humphrey pick, it was
the opposite side. Okay.
Yeah, we were right above the player entrance tunnel.
I see. Okay, that side. So yeah, from our perspective, I don't know, man, it just looked like a classic just a guy jumping the route. You see it right away. It's one of those things where the second the ball's getting past you, line of sight where the ball's going, you're like, uh-oh, he missed something there. And you get excited. So definitely was a huge play, man.
It felt like a very similar play to the early pick of Bo Nix in that game, right? I feel like that was a very similar concept. Quarterback rolled out. They tried to do a pass in the flat. I can't remember if that was to a tight end or not, but yeah, he had that game, and our Darius Washington, going back to our guy, he was the one who had the pick in early in that game. Very similar play to that. And hey, it worked. And man, was that we really needed that, man, because after that pick to Bateman, I was stunned, because Lamar, man, he's not throwing picks this year. We've seen that. Yeah. So to see that happen, miscommunication between him and Bateman, man, you just felt like after it was such a whiplash, right? Because Henry gets the big run, they're down at the 10. You're like, this is it. They're going to go up. They're going to be up by 2 touchdowns. This is the game. Then Lamar throws the pick, and you're just like, all right, well, anything can happen now. We've seen the Ravens have these type of games. And then 2 plays later, Marlon gets the touchdown we were all expecting was happening after that Henry run, man. So, woo.
I know.
It was a roller coaster.
I know. Monken was screaming, Bate, what are you doing, Bate? And Cruz to K-Fish, he called it right away. He's like, no, Bate, what are you doing? He saw it live, as similar to how the Marlon pick, I was seeing right before my eyes. He was seeing the pick right before his eyes as the ball came out to Bateman. And yeah, unfortunate for Lamar, but I guess to wrap up the defense, man, another guy worth talking about, Matabike gets a half sack in this game. and also the big boy, who I swear he gained even more weight. Like who knows what he weighs now? Him and Stavi are in a competition, but yeah, Pierce with one full sack. That was awesome to see. Just what a big guy.
Huge. Just absolutely, yeah, really big guy, man. And hey, man, it's great to see him healthy. He was on injured reserve there for a bit. He's come back, and yeah, he looks like his old self. So that is great to see, because as we're talking about midseason, the defensive line depth is not that great on this team, but we've got him healthy out there. We've got Matt Abike has been out there all year. Brent Urban has been banged up a little bit, but he's out there. Travis Jones, I'm blanking on how he's doing. He was at least in the game. He played.
He played a full complement of snaps. He was 72% of snaps. Looks healthy.
Yeah, so hopefully he can stay healthy too, because he's had a great year himself. But yeah, we need this unit healthy. Right now it looks good. That wasn't the case about a month ago, but hopefully, the bye week got them rested up, and the coaching staff can keep these guys good for the rest of the year.
I agree, man. I don't have anyone else on defense. Is anyone else you want to highlight?
I mean, Kyle Hamilton is just everywhere, right?
Consistent. Yep.
So many big hits in this game. He was flying all over the field, and another play that looked like had a chance there for a touchdown for the Steelers when they went for it on close to the 50-yard line. That deep pass. Now, it wasn't the greatest throw by Wilson. I think we can say that, but still defended perfectly by Hamilton there. And, he was able to get there and get the pass break up there, get the ball back to the Ravens. He had some other big hits in the game, but I think that play in particular was the highlight from the game. He just continues to be the defensive MVP for this team. Do everything, coverage, against the run, pass rush, turnovers. Well, okay, maybe not turnovers this year, but it's like the one thing he's still got to get consistent at. But yeah, it just looked like he was playing anyone else. Steelers, it's same old Kyle Hamilton, just doing his all pro stuff.
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton's a special player, dude. The way he's been able to also go in the backfield and serve. I'm starting to wonder if that'll be his permanent position. And that they'll explore finding a nickel back in other places, because it's so valuable to be able to have, no explosives.
100%, yeah.
And I don't know, like, I really appreciate the boom plays he's able to make, but he's still able to come down and get tackles, and be a part of the run game, even from back there. He's just such a dynamic player that part of me thinks maybe him in the back is even better. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what gives us the best options.
Well, the good news is I think that he is so good at so many positions. It gives him flexibility, right? If one part of the defense is lacking, we can use him there to compensate. It's not ideal. Ideally, you want to line him up wherever you think he'd be most effective, right? But yeah. I think that Swiss Army role that he has, and he's a plus player wherever you want to put him, it gives some flexibility to the defense, particularly in a year like this when we've had injuries and unexpected performances, right? So
truly the most unexpected. Yeah, he's been an absolute star, like you mentioned, to drive ending plays. Just always around,
Yes, sir.
Maybe actually we transition to special teams for a second, because
I think we can do that.
Special teams was pretty interesting. Dare we say Justin Tucker's back? 2 games, kicks end over end, going down the middle, not hooking. Is he so back?
You hope so. And, I think the bye week was great for him too. And he kind of got 2 bye weeks because he didn't need to kick a field goal. He kicked lots of extra points against the Giants, right? What you really like to see about that kick, though, there's a couple things that were great. We got to give a lot of props to Stout, man, right? That snap was a little bit off target, and Stout made a great grab there for that 51-yarder to snag that ball and get it right down for Tucker. And it was just a strong kick, it didn't look like he was trying to do anything crazy with it. We didn't see it hook one way or the other. We've seen him make some kicks this year that were longer kicks, but it still had, that hook where it's hugging the upright. Just this time it's hugging the inner part rather than the outer part. It was much closer to the middle of the upright. Just looked like a standard kick. That's what we want to see from him, because we know he can do that. And what we really love to see about Tucker, I think after that kick, the camera showed Ronnie Stanley came up and kind of headbutted him or something. It definitely gave him some type of congratulations. The team believes in this guy. Some teams, a kicker struggles, and I think they're not able to recover because, the team just looks their back on him. They're the kicker. I remember back sometime like 2015 or something, the Bears were having a ton of problems, and they had a pretty decent kicker at the time, Robbie Gould, I'm pretty sure. And apparently there was reported there was some locker room fight, and Gould was trying to put his 2 cents in there, and Brandon Marshall apparently just chewed him out and just be like, you're the kicker. What are you talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case with Tucker. We hear it from so many players, the respect they have for Tucker. They understand that he's incredible at his craft and that he's such a critical part of the team. It's been that way since his rookie year. So I think the fact that he's got the whole team pulling for him and continuing to believe that, he can get back on track. I think that really helps a kicker. I'd have to imagine it does, for them to not just feel like, just this glorified piece of the team that's, expendable. So we'll see, we'll see, but it would certainly look like a step in the right direction this game.
It was definitely good that Stout was able to get that wayward snap and put it down right, because after that 14-yard punt, he needed a little bit of good graces. This is starting to get really concerning for me, honestly. We're in the 3rd year now of this guy's career, drafted in 22, if I recall correctly. Same draft as Falele. And we're still seeing these random bad punts, and I don't know, man. It's just troubling. But in the same token, Tylan Wallace is able to make sure that he's able to get one pinned super duper deep. So that's well executed. I don't know, man. I feel like the Stouts, the highs are highs and the lows are super duper low.
Yeah, I mean, he's still young. It's tough. I mean, it took Sam Cook a while to become Sam Cook, right? He was a very average punter for a good portion of his early career. So there's time, I think. That said, yeah, I mean, the shanks that he has, can't have that, obviously. Stout knows that. The coaches know that. I mean, that could show up in a playoff game, a tight game against the Chiefs or the Bills, and bad weather, field position is everything. That could sink a season, just one errant punt. So yeah, I get it. I understand what you're saying. And hopefully the answer is he's just trying to get a little too cute, just doing too much. And, there's a certain kick he's trying to do that just isn't working, and just, get back to basics there with that, just accept that you're not kicking that right now. Maybe you're making it in practice, but it's not consistent enough to pull out in the game. It is concerning. Yeah. But he's certainly made some big punts as well. So it's not like he's incapable. Just we want more consistency.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see if Desmond King maintains his recently acquired job as a kickoff, return man, or I guess rather punt return man. He had the 2 muffs in this game. The Ravens look to be exploring other options as well. They claimed wide receiver Steven Smith Jr., Steven Sims Jr. from the Texans, of all places. He was the guy who had the return against us in the playoffs last year. Perhaps they'll be having a little competition. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit this is one I'm a little confused here why we took Tylan Wallace out of the role, though. I mean, he's getting more offensive snaps, so maybe it's something to that degree. They're looking at him as, too valuable at this point to be risking out there on returns. But at the same time, I feel like his production has been pretty consistent at that role for a while now. And King, I mean, that was a good return he had in that first one of the game, but
Yeah.
we didn't need to get those extra 9 yards in that risky of a fashion, right?
Well, I think the thing that Thailand had against him in that role is that he had a couple times where he should have probably just fair caught it and let it go, and it bounced further down. So that judgment maybe has been the question mark. That's the only thing I can think of, though. Like you said, he's been pretty reliable when it comes to actually fielding it and being productive with the ball in his hand when he does catch it and have a chance to run.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid critique. I would just my question to the coaching staff would be: is it worth the gamble, though? Because we're seeing they're bringing King off who hasn't been in this organization, and he had a fumbling issue. Now you're bringing someone else in, and they're available for a reason, right? So it might be, in my opinion, it might be better to just continue to try and coach him up and just but. We'll see. That's again another one that's tough because, yeah, like you're saying, that's a valid criticism. If you, don't let that ball drop in a tight game, that could be a pretty big point field position swing, right? But
like you said, man, field position's big deal in this, against these best teams. Like for instance, there was a time when the Ravens didn't go for it against the Steelers, and it was purely for field position purposes. They were just trying to pin them. They didn't believe that the offense could go that far. They were usually right about that. So, yeah, I mean, I get it. I think that's all I had for the special teams. I think we can move on to the offense, which was quite the performance.
Quite the performance, yeah. And man, Lamar Jackson finally had his breakout game against the Steelers. I was close in my bold prediction. I said he'd get 4 total touchdowns. He ended up getting 3. Could have had a 4th. There were a couple times where, they were close, and there was a Bateman interception. And then there was a drive where Henry got stopped just at the 10-yard line, and they were up big enough where it was just, okay, just kick the field goal and just go up by 2 touchdowns late in the game. But a little shaky for the first 10 minutes of the game, but once he got into his groove, it was classic Lamar Jackson. I think the deep throw he had to Zay was late in the game was stellar. That was a throw that he was struggling to make last year, or at least struggling to get timing with the receivers on. That was excellent. Got Isaiah Likely a touchdown, found Mark Andrews in the back of the end zone. And I mean, the touchdown pass to Bateman in the corner end zone was the most impressive of the 3 of them. And yeah, he got sacked once. The pick wasn't great. I'm not sure if you put that on Lamar or Bateman. But yeah, just this is the type of game that he needed to have. And he stepped up to the task. And, I guess it's because the pressure was off him. I mean, the MVP race is over, right? So, he's got nothing, else to prove, nothing to worry about any marks going against him there because it's already been given to Josh Allen. So
hasn't now. I don't know if I believe that.
If you talk sports, that's what everyone tells me. If you scroll Twitter or anything, everyone's convinced that the NFL has stolen it from Lamar and given it to Josh Allen.
And it's a reasonable thing to say considering the betting lines too. Oh well. Excuse me. It's definitely it's just such a weird situation. I know we're supposed to base it off the regular season, and it's wrapping up very soon. But man, one of these guys just like, I don't know. The recency bias thing is always so weird. It's like what the recency bias they choose to see, right? Like they barely win against the Patriots,
Mm-hmm.
and like that wasn't enough to bring it down, all the way after Lamar is able to have a dominant performance for the division, potentially for the division. So I don't know, man. So goofy. The thing that's goofy is who had the other touchdown. Lamar passed for 3 touchdowns, like you said. We had the pick 6. That's 28. Oh, I guess it was all field goals.
2 field goals. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, there's more scoring here.
I know Tucker's missed a couple extra points, but he did not miss one this game.
Yeah, maths, how they work. But yeah, man, Lamar, when he hit that deep pass to Zay, Zay was super duper pumped. I think he knew that he got over 1,000 yards. He seemed very aware of what he needed. It was cool to see him fight for every last yard. Trying to get off the shoe there. That was fun.
The stadium was trying to pump some fake news out there, though. Did you catch that?
No, I don't know what the stadium.
They announced that he had crossed 1,000 yards for the second time in his career, and said it was the first time a Ravens wide receiver had done that in their first 2 years.
They said they just said like that he crossed 1,000 yards. I thought they said the first crossed 1,000 yards, first one to ever do it in the first 2 years.
Maybe that's what they said.
Yeah,
and they made it sound.
Never did that fast.
I don't think they worded it. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? But the way they worded it, when you're only catching it once, live, it made it sound like they said it was the second time that he'd done it in his career, which, that
is fake news. We can't have that. No propaganda. Although I do enjoy the fact. So I sent the note to the chat about like the 10-year anniversary of the team that I guess does the decibel sound rating things, but like they had a new graphic being like, some people think these are fake. They are not fake. We have like positioned microphones all around the stadium to figure out how loud it is.
Oh, they've been playing that all year.
The part about like how loud it is, like the microphone thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I missed that part.
That's been in their video rotation all year, man. You got season tickets. You haven't noticed that? They've been playing Beat It to that, just like they did on Sunday.
I just didn't realize that I genuinely did not see the dispelling the the narratives that they're fake. I always knew they were real. Like I had no question that they were real. They were too darn accurate. They moved too much with the perceived loudness, So, anyways,
both could be true. I mean, you could fake it too and make it look like it was real.
Have someone on a slider engaging.
Anyways,
how much are they yelling?
There were certainly portions where the stadium was very loud. That game, I don't think it was the wildest crowd I've ever heard at the stadium, but
not at all.
There were certainly times where it was loud, and man, the Steelers fans, I felt like gave up pretty quickly. They were
truly.
You could hear them for the first 10 minutes of the game, but then, even when the Steelers weren't out of it, I feel like they kind of, the towels, which were pretty prevalent after that after that sack early in the game, just they didn't wave terribly much after that.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I don't know about you. I felt like there weren't that many Steeler fans in general in the stands. I thought it'd be a lot worse.
They were quiet.
Yeah.
I sat next to a Steelers fan until midway through the fourth quarter, and I didn't realize he was a Steelers fan until early in the third.
There you go. Yeah, I guess it's fair. Like if they weren't wearing their colors.
He was. I just didn't look over.
Well, no, I'm sure. No, I guess what I'm saying is like sometimes they don't wear their colors and they had nothing to cheer for, so it became less and less obvious, or like they weren't going to cheer after being down by 10 points still.
But that's the thing. What I'm saying, like they got a sack on Lamar. Like after we started that game, and Derrick Henry, who we'll certainly talk about, just pound them on the ground. It's just like, okay, you guys had one good play after we had 6. And we're bringing out the towels for that. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Derrick Henry, I mean, he got a full complement of snaps due to unfortunate circumstance with Justice Hill. 24 attempts, 162 yards for an average of 6.8 yards per carry. Long of 44. The guy, like, man, I'd be curious what his long was after the 44, because he just kept gashing them for several yards at a clip. It's not surprising that it's so high. His yards per carry, I felt like he had several plus runs, particularly like you mentioned, that first drive. They just couldn't stop him. Derrick Henry, yeah, he looked the part, and shockingly, with all those yards, no touchdowns.
Yeah, and that absolutely crazy. And he could have had an even bigger game. It just felt like there were a couple runs The first one he had, or maybe it was the second run of the game, got past a great pull by Roger Rosengarten, who had a great game,
Phenomenal.
and looked like he was just about to break a big one, but got tripped up. There was another one that same drive when we're around the 40 where he could have done that. And then he did finally get a big one. We talked about that because that was the one that was right before the pick. Yeah, I know the Steelers had some injuries in this game, but it's still just incredible to see how difficult it was for him to get yards in that first matchup. And then just right out of the gate, it was just a completely different matchup. The offensive line was bringing in big holes for him. He was hitting the holes hard. It looked like he was very well rested. We keep forgetting this guy is 30 years old because he's running around like he's 25. He's just keeping his body in incredible shape, incredible preparation, man. And he is not slowing down, not at all.
It's special to watch. He is definitely built different. You can definitely tell his conditioning differences over top of even all these other, super professional athletes. It's really special. I really am appreciating it, being able to watch it up close, just how different he is. Kind of like Lamar. Lamar's just different too, but that's from a pure I guess I feel it feels like from a skill perspective. It's like I don't even know how Henry is so like obviously it's an incredible work ethic that goes into all those workout videos and all those workouts and stuff, but also just I feel like he has to also have special genetics and everything too to be able to be like that big, that tall, that strong, and be able to put it all together. I mean, it is really remarkable.
Well, I think what's been so fun about this season with him is learning how to appreciate a good player. He had his breakout the same year that they knocked us out, right? So, it was a guy that didn't really take the time to really appreciate because all I could think about was, that game where he just gashed their defense and, stiff-armed Earl Thomas out of the NFL and just destroyed that incredible 2019 run. But I mean, with getting a chance to look at him, what's incredible is really just his change of direction, man. I mean, especially for a guy that big, he's not shifty, but he changes direction on a dime very well. I think he's very precise with his cuts and his vision. There's certain times where he is able to step it up to another gear. And, when he's in the open field, man, I mean, he looks like a track runner. And I mean, a lot of these guys ran track in high school, college, right? Particularly the 100-yard dash, 200. But yeah, his form for a guy that big is incredible, the sprinting form. And when he's out there on those big runs, no one's catching him. No one's catching him easily, at least.
I know. That 44-yarder, I thought he might house it, but got tripped up. And everyone always goes super low on him. You have to.
Oh, yeah.
I get why, but his end of runs are always so similar. But, got to talk about the reason he got, 24 attempts is because Justice Hill got concussed. Very, very, I don't know. I guess it was a good one. A bad one, but you know what I mean? Like he got quite concussed. It seemed like he was knocked out for a second there, wasn't moving. Very scary. I was definitely nervous when I realized he kind of spun around and then just laid there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he was already off to a great day. In just 7 snaps, he had 30 yards rushing. And I think he also had a catch. Yeah, a catch for no yards. So 30 total yards, but 3 touches on those 7 snaps. It's a super scary moment. And definitely hope that he gets well soon. I don't think he'll be ready for next, Wednesday for Christmas. Shoot.
Probably not.
It's such a quite tight turnaround. I don't even know if it's possible. I don't know if he can clear protocol in that short of time. So, yeah.
I kind of hope he can't. That feels
Right.
like too short of a window for the minimum stay in protocol. I won't pretend to know the ins and outs of a concussion. I'm not a medical doctor, but from the little I do know, I mean, it takes some time for recovery there. And when you're dealing with, the brain.
Yeah, it was scary.
So,
I hope everything's okay with him. No long term, side effects and all that stuff. It was just so scary. Quiet stadium when that happened.
Without a doubt, yeah. So, prayers up for Hill. Hope he gets ready. Can overcome that, and there's not lasting impacts. You hope that for every guy who gets concussion, right? I mean, that's part of the toughest part of watching this game, being a fan, is knowing that these guys are going out there for our entertainment and for their own careers, but it's it comes with risks, and you just hope every time this happens that the effects won't be lasting, but it'll be interesting, and we'll get there. So next game, Rasheen Ali came in. He got a decent amount of snaps, not as much as if Hill, they didn't really have the Hill role, but didn't have too much responsibility, I felt, when he was in there. It'll be interesting to see if the Ravens try and get him a little more involved this next game against Houston in case Hill is out for an extended time. Or, God forbid, he suffers an injury that he can't come back from later in the season. Because, I mean, Henry's obviously a huge part of this offense, but in the 2-minute drill, that's the time you have Hill out there, and Henry could do it, but it's not gonna look the same if that's what they are forced into doing.
Yeah, I mean, Keaton Mitchell looks to be on track to be active in this game. I have a hunch that he'll be more involved than Ali, but maybe I'm just dreaming. We'll see. But I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Henry still skews towards having a bigger role than he was with Hill around.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think when we're looking at this offense, we also got to talk about the offensive line, right? Because, I think Jason had a great comment on our last video, really highlighting that, the line needed to get some better holes, that was missing in that game against the Giants. It just, I wouldn't say it was a bad effort, but certainly is one that left to be desired. And, it's funny. What we saw against the Giants is what we were expecting Henry to do against the Steelers here, and vice versa, right? But, I mean, the line was very active. You had a lot of great pulls in this game. Like I said earlier, Roger Rosengarten, I think, was very effective in this game. Falele got downfield on some blocks. Tylan Wallace had a really strong block early in the game. We could just keep going through. There were a lot of guys here who had really strong games. I think McCary may have been a little bit of the weak link in this game. And I mean, I haven't gotten a chance to watch the whole tape. I'm just looking at some of the things that I was able to watch. And there were a couple of times he missed a block. But, I think that overall, this unit, I mean, phenomenal, especially compared to what they did earlier in the season against this same defense.
Yeah, it was a big difference. The less turnovers was a big part of it. And, just all around, everyone, I think, performed better. I think Jackson just performed better, too, frankly. Passed through a little bit on, I think, a little bit more on the money. And, man, it was just all around, like I said at the top, confidence. They just seemed confident. They never seemed rattled. I don't know if you noticed this too. Did you notice that, like, when Lamar came out of the tunnel, he was like actively smiling, and like he just seemed like a different demeanor. He like looked very excited to play the game.
I missed that.
Yeah. I feel like he normally comes out, just waving his towel and like kind of like focused. He almost came out like jovial, like, yeah, here we come. Like, let's start this party.
He felt good about the preparation for the game, man. And it showed.
maybe someone said something to him. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows what happened? But I don't know. Even when he came out, I was just like, look at that smile. He's happy. He's ready. It just seems like a little different.
Hey, man, a happy Lamar is a good Lamar, man, and it's just so incredible to watch this man every time he goes out there. And, I can't state it enough. Every time I watch the Ravens, it just blows my mind that we have this guy. I mean, this guy is a
Yeah.
generational talent. I mean, you know, in some senses, I mean, he's as much of a unicorn of a player and as transcendent of a player as Michael Jordan was with the Bulls. You know, he doesn't have the rings yet. Hopefully he gets them. We believe he can. It's tough to get a ring in any sport, but he's just and he's just showing it this year. I mean, a lot of you have probably seen the stats thrown out on Twitter. I mean, what he's doing is historic. You can compare the season that he's having just as a passer, let alone before we get into the rushing part of it, just what he's done as a passer. The numbers are comparable to some pretty, good seasons out there. Some of the best passing seasons in NFL history. I'm talking about guys like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. I mean, it's an incredibly special season that he's having this year.
Career best in touchdowns. They showed that at the game as well. Yeah, the guy's rolling, man. He's having a, dare I say, an MVP season. I thought we're not allowed to say. We can't say that. MVP seasons have been canceled. Been taken away from us. Can't have MVP seasons anymore. No, we'll see. We'll see. I'm sure he won't win it. But it won't be because he didn't deserve it. That's for sure.
Man, if he gets the Super Bowl MVP and not the league MVP, I'm completely fine with that trade-off.
He'll be so cool with that as well. We'll all be cool with it. I don't know if there's a single person in the fan base that would not be cool with that. It's like, I think that works. Dang. Speaking of MVPs, do we want to do our MVPs for the game? Since Chris has been able to join us today, maybe we can do two. It feels like a lot of players we can choose.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do offense and defense, man. Offense, the offensive line, all of them, all five of them up front. I think it was one of the best performances we've seen from them this year, particularly from a run blocking perspective. And then defense, I got to give it to Kyle Hamilton. I think that he's continuing to make a lot of big plays. And like I said, I think that pass breakup on that fourth down heave by Wilson was clutch. Man, that was a clutch play. So those are mine. There's so many we could give, but those are ones I'm going to single out here.
Great. Yeah, the penalties were lacking, right? For the offensive line. That was a big deal.
There were no men downfield, right? No men only
downfield.
Legal men downfield.
Yeah, and we saw the jumbo package with Cleveland and Jones coming out.
We did, yep. Twice in a row, right? I think at the end there.
They just stayed out there. Cleveland's like, this is my freaking chance. I'm not leaving.
Oh man.
We're not done here.
I loved I can't remember what was said, but the ref's mic picked up someone from the Steelers just like confirming. He was like 66 eligible, and the ref's like, yep, correct, or something like that. That was a fun little moment.
Too funny. Who you say your defense was again?
Hamilton.
Yeah, I don't want to overstep. There's so many options, man. I gotta get Marlowe. I mean, dude, Marlowe, come on, pick six, amazing.
That's a great one. Yep.
I wanted to give it our Darius, but I feel like we've been talking about him more lately. So, Marlowe, you get it. And then on offense, man, who do I want to pick? I think honestly, man, I think it's Mark Andrews' game. You know, he had his first touchdown against a rival, unbelievable. He just continues the, show up. I heard a fantasy analyst say that he's been super touchdown dependent lately. He's like, he's getting a lot of points, but he's been touchdown dependent. It's still not like quite there. And I'm like, man, I feel like he's always been a little bit touchdown dependent. Like, granted, yes, he got a lot of yards that one season and a lot of touchdowns. Don't get me wrong, but I don't mind.
Well, he just has a different role in this offense. I mean, he always used to be the 1B option, maybe 1A, if you want to say him or Hollywood. But, I mean, from a statistic standpoint, he is on pace to have the least amount of receiving yards in his career since his rookie year, in a season. He has not eclipsed 70 yards receiving in a game. That's the first time in his career, including his rookie season. He hasn't done that. On pace for the lowest average per catch for his career. But here's the thing. I mean, about Mark, I mean, he's one of those guys, vets, he's buying in. We haven't heard a single negative thing from his mouth about, his role being maybe not what it used to be in past seasons, or, on him not getting the ball enough. I mean, the guy was just on the Pat McAfee show today. I only got a chance to watch a couple 2-minute clips from it, but he's out there, espousing the praises of, how well Lamar is doing this year and saying Lamar's the best he's ever looked and how great it is to block for Derrick Henry. I mean, he's just been a total team guy. And yeah, that's going to mean you're going to be less of a fantasy performer,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, from a production standpoint, if we're looking at numbers, worst season of his career, but from a team perspective, might be his best season of his career.
Yeah. And no, that's you could argue that it's one of his best, as well, because the golden metric, yards per target, it's actually his best ever since his rookie season, where it was 11. That was kind of bonkers.
But I think that also goes down to less targets. So when he's getting peppered with more targets, a lot of those were closer to the line of scrimmage, right?
Well, I think they were to use a Ken word, marginal targets, where because he's getting the ball when as a please help me,
right?
Well, not the best opportunities for him. Just full trust. Like you might do something, not the highest quality targets, bailout situations. So yeah, I mean, the offense is just being able to go around much better right now, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. I can't complain. It's looking way better than it was at the beginning of the season, and who knows if Zay's shoulders messed up, him and Bateman for 200 yards each, just they'll fix their stats, fix their stats in a hurry. Speaking of which, Christmas Day, that's why we have to record on Monday, and I feel very pressured to get it out like tonight or like really, really early tomorrow, because we play on Wednesday, because the NFL is a capitalist beast like no other. They could write a book about being a capitalist beast, and we have to have games. We have to have them on a streaming platform. They have to be on Netflix. Of course, why not? Let's do it. Let's ruin Christmas. Let's have let's have football on Christmas.
And blow up families. They're asking, why aren't you at Christmas? Like, I watched the Ravens. I can't come over.
I mean, genuinely, dude, I have not looked for any Christmas gatherings, and I also kind of feel like maybe that's why they don't exist. Like everyone's kind of quietly agreeing that, unfortunately, 4:00, we're kind of all busy. So I'm like, rats.
Yeah. I will be. I'm not sure where I'll be. I'll be somewhere in my travels. I have to do time conversions and all that of when the game's kicking off, when planes are touching down and all that. But it's freaking annoying. That's all I'll say. I think there was back in 2005, I want to say, what was that, Ravens Vikings game that meant nothing, but that was a Christmas night game. That was nice. I think
2016 too, against the Steelers.
Yes. Again, also, I was on the West Coast for that game, so I forget that was a night game because it was 4 p.m. for me. But I think that was really good by the NFL, because Christmas is a lot of the day. Everyone gets up early because of the presents, and then you have a big brunch. Christmas night, Christmas Eve is when people get together at night more often than not. Everyone's family is different. I'm just espousing my own personal experiences here. But yeah, I mean, the NFL is going to do what they want to do for the dollar. And, if I don't see the game live, I guess I'll just have to watch the recording. So, but hopefully the Ravens win, because look, man, I don't care if I got to watch it live or watch it later. Just want to see them win here. Just don't want to see a letdown from this big win. Just want them to go in Houston and just be like, hey, we've got better defensive players than you. We've got better offensive players than you. We've got a more experienced coach than you do. No disrespect to Houston. I love what they're doing, but they're not on the level of the Ravens right now. And the Ravens should win this game. But if they don't execute, of course Houston's capable of winning it. So we'll just have to make sure just hope the Ravens show up and don't take this game lightly.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I feel like I'm telling you, man, after the bye and the way that they were even talking about the Giants game and the way that they're focusing on this 8-game season, et cetera, it just felt different, man. I don't know if you got that vibe too, but they feel like they know what they need to do. I don't think anything's gonna pass them by. The season's short enough that they can have that kind of focus. I feel like it's really hard to have that kind of laser focus for 6 months. I think it's better to be able to do that for the last 2 or 3. So
I hear what you're saying, but it's also just like weird things can happen on weird weeks, right? And like I'm also old enough to remember 2011 Ravens, coming off a 4-game win streak in just absolutely dominant fashion, looking incredible. And then last 3 weeks of the season look incredible for 2 of those 3 weeks. And then just bizarrely lose a Sunday night football game 34-14 in San Diego. Go 6-1 down that stretch of that year. And I still don't understand why the Ravens were so flat in that game. That was a very bizarre game. And then they'd go all on to be a Lee Evans touchdown drop short of a Super Bowl in that game. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but also at the same time, it's just like, we have limited visibility into the ins and outs of what these guys do. So there's only so confident we can be that, everything's gonna go the way it should. So
yeah, no, I think you're right. It is fragile. But I'm gonna choose to believe that they're locked in. How about that?
Let's go.
Dude, let's talk about the line for a second. I think it's worth talking about because it goes towards the view of the whole game. Shortly after the Ravens beat the Steelers, the line was set at -3. This morning, it was -4. And as of recording start time, I don't know about now. Who knows? Maybe now it's 8. But as of recording start time, 5.5. So lots of money pouring in on the Ravens. People, thought that was too close. I agreed. When I saw 3, I was stunned. I couldn't believe it myself because, first of all, I didn't get to really watch the Chiefs game that closely, but I have been watching it in preparation for the game. And I don't know, man. Obviously it was the Chiefs, but I'm like, this team doesn't look like, all that put together, all things considered. Like you said, they just feel like they're on a different class than the Ravens and the other top competitors in the AFC. Like, sure, they're going to win their division, but their division just isn't that competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I really like this team's potential for the future. I think that C.J. Stroud is a franchise quarterback. I think DeMeco Ryans is a very promising head coach.
For sure.
Really love what he's done there. But they just haven't taken the next step this year. It feels like they're basically the same team that they were last year and maybe even slightly worse.
Right.
And we had no problem beating them twice last year. And they've got some injuries there right now. Stephon Diggs performed better than I think a lot of people thought he would early in the season for them. He's been out for the year for some time now. Tank Dell took a while to get going this year, finally started being a consistent performer for them and had a great touchdown catch and tore his ACL and dislocated his knee on it. Or maybe it was the MCL. I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah.
Was it MCL?
I thought it was ACL, but
ACL.
It doesn't matter, man. He's
out.
So,
he's out. He's not playing.
He's so out, and it's so sad. It's so sad. Like you said, he's just finally looking like himself again. Like he definitely was still recovering from the injury and had that breakout game, caught that touchdown, and then all that to happen. I mean, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, but this is just such a confusing team because they're having, like, Derek Stingley is having an incredible year, and he's not the only one in their secondary who's been strong, but just something's not fully meshing for this team. This is a team that was able to beat Buffalo, but also lost to Tennessee at home. This is a team that, was able to sweep Indianapolis, but only beat Jacksonville by a combined 7 points in their series sweep this year. Crushed New England, but got crushed by Minnesota. Okay, that makes sense. Never mind. But still, I just look at what they've done this year, and it's just like, in the offseason when they added Diggs in and, some other moves they made, a lot of people were saying, oh, this team's going to make the next step. They're ready to compete for, the AFC Championship. And I was one of them. I thought they were. And maybe they will. But right now, it's not really looking like they will be able to.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is their year. Excuse me. They made that move to get Diggs, like you mentioned, and it kind of felt like cherry on top. Like let's do this thing. Let's take it to 11. And I kind of thought to myself, even the preseason, I remember having conversations where someone said, I think Houston might go all the way. And I can understand why they would say that. They had a young core. You felt like they would just keep getting better. You had a piece here, you had a piece there. I thought they drafted nicely with Fisher and Lassiter, their top 2 picks. I thought that there was reason to have optimism, but injury bug has been brutal for them. Offensive line has regressed. They put assets towards the offensive line, and it hasn't really paid out the way that they were hoping. And they got Mixon, which I thought was a big deal. He's been playing really well for them, but overall, Stroud's having a bit of a sophomore slump, and you just have an offense that's just not quite there and not performing to the same level. And like you said, Peter, the expectations are really different. They went last year, Harbaugh said they were a tough football team. It was like early in the season, no one really believed him. And then they turned out to be a division winner and a playoff contender. But then, this year, like, again, they're going to win the division, but it's just not a confident way. It's just not, they're not doing it with rolling, they're not going in strong.
Yeah. I mean, their big win this year was the tight win against Buffalo at home, right? And as Bills fans love to tell you, right now on Twitter at least, that was back when the Bills had injuries to linebackers. That's apparently the reason why they lost so bad to us, and the only reason. But not trying to disparage Bills fans here. This is just a Twitter thread I saw where the Bills fans were trying to justify why they lost so bad to us. To their credit, yeah, they had like no linebackers that game. I'll give them that, but I still think you got to give the Ravens props there. But anyways, yeah, I mean they beat a beat up Buffalo team, and that's been it. I mean they almost beat Green Bay, but that's almost. They lost to Detroit epically. Goff had 5 interceptions in that game, and the Lions still won. Like I said, they lost to Tennessee at home, which is just. I mean, I guess that's as bad as us losing to the Raiders at home, but earlier in the season,
I say like Cleveland. I mean, I guess it was away, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's on par with that, but yeah, I mean, but the difference is, I think, the Ravens, they have the win against the Bills. They have 2 wins against the Bengals. They have the win against the Steelers. The Ravens have some good wins this season. Take the Bengals wins for what you will, but we're not seeing them get the big wins yet this year, and that's the difference.
Yeah. Quick aside, I have to ask you, how much do you weigh early season wins and losses? Like, for instance, we beat the Bills, back in week 3. How does that make you feel about beating them in the playoffs?
Means nothing to me.
Yeah.
I consider
agree.
September extended preseason.
Yeah.
I think looking at it, we have to include it as it's still a win. It's still a win against a quality opponent, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, no, I'm not trying to take it away, but I also kind of like I'm like working on this analogy on the fly, but now being new dad 1 year in or whatever, I feel like an NFL season is like watching a newborn. They get like there's so many different stages of the season, and like you can't really apply one thing to the other part. They just it's just different. The team's different at this point. Injuries, 100%. Roles, packages, whatever. Things that you're good at, things you're bad at, answers that other teams have come up with from film. It doesn't really mean anything. So agreed there. I definitely think this Ravens team right now is looking the best they've looked all year. The defense is put together. The offense is humming against a good defense, and the Steelers, and kind of keep on rolling there. And that's what gives me confidence going into this matchup. I guess speaking of our offense and rolling, their defense has a strong secondary. You already mentioned it with Stingley having a good season, and Lassiter, like I mentioned, I liked him coming out of the draft. He's been playing quite well.
He has. He almost had several picks in that game against Kansas City.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw that, and That's going to be huge for them, right? Obviously, the turnover battle will be a big thing. Stroud threw 2 picks as well. Didn't look great in that game. Overthrows, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I guess. What do you think? Do you think that given our wide receivers, Zay, we'll see if he plays. It looks like he should be able to play. Looks like Nelly will be still out with the concussion, though. Are you worried about us being able to get separation with our linebacker or with our tight ends against our linebackers and things of that nature?
No, and I'll explain why. I was listening to Steve Smith a couple days before the Ravens Steelers game. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll admit I haven't listened to too much of his stuff, but he's talking the Ravens Steelers matchup, so of course I was interested.
Sure.
And I think he was the host of the show. He's on there with someone else. Apologies to that individual. I didn't catch their name but the question was posed to him: teams on a short week, how do you handle that turnaround? And Steve Smith brought up, that there's going to be on these short weeks, you have a lot of carryover from the previous game. You're bringing in a lot of schemes and a lot of plays that are going to be able to work in both games because you just don't have that as much time, right? That was at least, his take on that. And I look at what the Chiefs were able to do against this Texans defense, and they're running back by committee. They've got a Pacheco coming back from injury. They've got Hunt on the back 9 of his career, and they have Samaje Perine running screens for them, catching out of the backfield. I will say, not having Justice Hill for this game, assuming that he doesn't play, I think Justice Hill could have had a great game here, but I think Derrick Henry, we're going to see another monster game from him. And I think there's a possibility we're not going to see many targets to the wide receivers. It's going to be Henry. It's going to be a lot of play action to Likely and to Andrews. And that's going to be how you beat this defense. And I just don't see the Texans being able to stop that very well based on what, that I saw against Kansas City, based on what the Lions were able to do to come back in that game on Sunday night a few weeks ago. It just seems to me like this year's Ravens team stacks up really well with what the shortcoming is on this team. And it really is just getting a lot of, this defense has done well against lesser competition, but against the better offenses in the NFL, it's been tougher going for them, particularly in defending the run.
Yeah, when on a short week, the Mahomes, injured Mahomes is able to run 15 yards for a touchdown.
Oh yeah,
I was thinking to myself, I think Derrick Henry might be able to do a thing or two, or I think Lamar Jackson might be able to do a thing or two against.
Yeah, Lamar. I didn't even bring up defense. Lamar, but yeah, if Mahomes could run all over him, I mean, Lamar's
with a quote unquote high ankle sprain.
Right, exactly.
The lowest high ankle sprain I've ever seen in my life. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Anyways, I have a feeling that we might be able to run effectively. Good call out about game against the Lions. They did give up a lot of yards on the ground in that game. What is it? That was the offense. Oh my goodness, 240 yards. Or no, 105.
That was through the air. Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. I'm reading this all wrong. I'm really struggling here.
Yeah. I mean,
105 yards.
To Texans credit, I mean, the Lions didn't run for terribly much yards per carry in that game, but it was it was a very effective running game. The volume, they were able to continue to get those chunks, and I think that helped the Lions stay, climb back and pull off that comeback.
Awesome. Yeah. I think they're the biggest player I want to watch for and see how Stanley and Rosengarten handle him is Will Anderson. He's still performing at a high level. He was the kind of guy who I feel like brought that team up. Everyone talks about Stroud, but on the defensive side, it was Will Anderson that really set the tone.
Yeah, and we remember him. He got his first career sack, I believe, right off of. Why am I forgetting his name? Right tackle for the Jets. Morgan Moses, yeah. He looked great for a very first career NFL game, and he hasn't stopped since then. He was a guy highly lauded coming into the draft, and he's made good on that. He is a star in this league. He is definitely a guy that the Ravens are going to have to watch out for. When we're looking at ways that this game might has a chance to fall, out of the Ravens' favor, that would be one of them. Losing that battle and a tight game and the positive plays that he's going to have, because he's going to have some. He's too good a player to not, end up factoring in and getting the offense off balance. So, he's the guy to look at on the defensive line. And then, in the secondary, Stingley is the big guy there.
And Danielle Hunter, too.
Him too, yep.
Yeah, he's leading them with 12 sacks right now. I remember him from when he signed the big contract with the Vikings, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it was the Vikings.
Yeah, so now he's a Texan. But yeah, I don't know much about their linebackers. I feel like that could be their weakness, particularly with our love of 12 personnel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid group. I don't want to disparage them, because I'll admit, it's tough to prepare fully and know a team inside and out for these things. And I agree.
Particularly on a short week.
On a short week too, yeah. And honestly, I wasn't terribly impressed with what I saw, against the Chiefs. Nothing really terribly stood out for me, positive or negative, really. I think it's a solid group, and again, when we're talking about this defense, I don't think we're talking about a unit that's going to be a pushover. I just look at them and I just don't think that they're ready to shut down, the Ravens offense if they couldn't do it last year. I think this is a deadlier offense, right? So,
for sure. Yeah, and I'm looking at it too. Never forget Deshaun Phillips going over there. But
yep.
No, I do remember. I think 202 Henry 202. That linebacker. I remember him in the draft. He fifth round pick. He is what you would think of a fifth round linebacker, I guess is the best way to put it. Again, not trying to be disparaging, but just nothing like to write home about or be too scared about, at least from my recollection.
Yeah, I think solid player, but not a game wrecker, to my understanding.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I just feel like if we're able to beat their outside corners and get the ball out quick and not have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, feast all over us. I think that's the key to getting past their defense.
Want to do some bold predictions and score predictions?
I suppose. I'll let you start.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of running. Like I said, I think that the Ravens are going to be able to win this one comfortably, but with it being a short week, I wouldn't be shocked if, we don't see quite as explosive of an offense as we did against the Steelers. I'm going to pick the Ravens to win 24-16. And my bold prediction will be we're going to get 200 yards rushing combined between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in this game.
I think for me, you gotta go back to the spread point, where now it's 5.5, over under at 46.5. I kind of saw this game as kind of a foil to the Steelers game. I can kind of see how their offense just isn't able to put up more than they'll score less than 20. Ravens score 30. So why not just lift the score? 34-17 Ravens. And the bold prediction, I wanted to do something with Christmas or something kind of silly, like guessing a touchdown celebration or something of that nature. But instead, I'm going to say this. There's going to be another pick six. So the defense is just going to keep the pick six train going.
Let's do it.
Love that.
Do you want to throw out
who
you think it'd be?
Yeah, sure. Why not? It's gonna be our Darius dude. He's been flirting with too many good plays, right?
Yeah.
So
let's do it,
my guy. We didn't talk about it in the earlier part of the episode, but there's a lot of consternation about Hamilton, playing the ball, and that there was no pass interference on that play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was a homer take to be like, yeah, he never even looked at the guy. He was like, I see ball,
Yeah.
It was like him just playing the ball. He had more rights to it than the wide receiver. I think it was Austin. But yeah, he's definitely a baller, dude. He could do it too. All right, well, that wraps it up, I guess. Enjoy your holiday. If you're able to watch the game on Netflix, steal a password if you have to, I guess. And hopefully the Ravens get a big win on a very festive day. I'm sure John Harbaugh will have some quote for us in the post-game. But anyways, go Ravens. We'll see you next week, and hopefully still be in position to win the division.